Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 2, Michelle de Friskbaum. Today, we commemorate the 105th anniversary of the Second Battle of Dernancourt, which was fought on the 5th of April 1918, 105 years ago today, in northern France. After the Third Battle of Ypres ended in late 1917, the Western Front fell into a lull during the winter months. As Australian soldiers endured another European winter, they reflected on their bloodiest year on the Western Front and wondered how their units could be reinforced by the dwindling number of enlistments. The 4th Division had suffered so badly at Passchendaele that Major General Sinclair McLagan declared it not fit for the line. The German spring offensive began in March the following year, with 74 divisions attacking near the junction between the French and British armies. Although still under strength, the 4th Division was brought in to assist. On the 5th of April, a German army force attacked the line near Dernancourt between the Australian 12th and 13th Brigades. A breakthrough here would drive a wedge between the French and British armies and leave the road to Amiens open. A seemingly unending flood of German stormtroopers battled their way forward as the Australians desperately tried to hold the thin line. Lieutenant Mitchell of the 48th Battalion reported that the roar of battle was so loud that men could not hear the sound of their own rifles, and they only knew they had fired because of the recoil of their weapons. As the attackers gained ground, every available man was thrown into a final defence. At 5:30 that afternoon, a fierce counterattack by the 49th Battalion hit the Germans with irresistible momentum, halting the German advance. The Australians had lost ground, but the front line was held and the road to Amiens was secure. Months later, the graves of 2 Australians were found near those of the German dead. Written in German on the small wooden cross over the Australians' graves was, "Here lies a brave English warrior." This cross is now held in the collection of the Australian War Memorial. Charles Bean, Australia's First World War correspondent, author of our official histories, and co-founder of the Australian War Memorial, describes the Dernancourt Cross as one of the most valuable relics in the memorial. Today, we remember the Second Battle of Dernancourt. We pay our respects to the men and women commemorated here on the Roll of Honour and to the survivors who returned home. This evening, we are honoured to acknowledge His Excellency Jean-Pierre Thébault, Ambassador of France to Australia, Admiral Pierre Vendier, Chief of Naval Staff for Marine National, France, accompanied by Vice Admiral Mark Hammond, Chief of Navy, General Manoj Pandey, Chief of the Army Staff, India, accompanied by Lieutenant General Simon Stewart, Chief of Army, and their accompanying delegation. We also warmly welcome Mr. John King, President of the Returned and Services League of Australia, ACT branch. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Club Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Holy Spirit School from Ringwood North, Victoria. Australia's Federation Guard is the tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catafalque party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier.
Mon party, A10, jump. Mon party, quick, march. Catapult party, A10, jump. Catapult party, present, arms. Catapult party, shoulder, arms. Catapult party, inwards, turn. Catapult party, slow. Catapult party, halt. Catapult party, present, arms. Catapult party, reverse. Catapult party, rest on.
If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Catapult party, A10, check. Catapult party, present, arms.
Australians, oh let us rejoice, for we are one and free.
Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament. Flowers of the forest, wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Richard Balcombe. Richard Balcombe was born in 1892 in the Melbourne suburb of Richmond. Affectionately known as Dick, he was the eldest of 10 children born to local farmer Richard Balcombe Sr. and his wife Mary. Richard spent his boyhood near the city of Albury and was educated at Bownor Public School. His family moved to a farm near the town of Lima South, near Benalla, in 1912. A year later, Richard's father passed away and he was left to run the farm and care for his siblings alongside his mother. Richard Balcombe enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 8th of February 1917. He was assigned to the reinforcements of the 46th Battalion and began a short period of training in Australia. He embarked for active service from Melbourne on the 12th of May that year, sailing on board the troop ship Arkansas. Private Balcombe arrived in England in mid-July and continued training alongside his new comrades. After spending several months in camp, he embarked for the Western Front, joining his unit on the 2nd of November 1917. Having spent several months fighting on the Ypres salient in Belgium, Balcombe's unit returned to France for the winter. He spent the months which followed alternating between duty in the trenches and resting and training behind the lines. In March 1918, the 46th Battalion took up positions along the River Anka near the French village of Dernancourt, repulsing regular attacks attempting to break through the Australian front. On the 5th of April 1918, the Germans made another attack on positions around Dernancourt, this time using a force of 2.5 divisions. Balcombe's unit came under heavy shell fire along its forward posts before German units attacked under cover of heavy mist, outnumbering the Allied units by more than double. Amid desperate fighting, the enemy managed to infiltrate Australian lines using a bridge west of Dernancourt. Nearly surrounded and outflanked, Australian units counter-attacked that evening and managed to push the enemy part of the way back, preventing a major enemy breakthrough. This did not come without cost, however, with the attack resulting in more than 1,200 Australian casualties. Among the dead was Private Richard Balcombe, who was killed by enemy shell fire during the attack on Dernancourt. His friend, Private John Warnock, wrote to Richard's mother in Victoria after the battle. "One thing I am glad to say is that he had a good death and suffered no pain. Dick was just near me watching our artillery sending a heavy barrage back on the Germans when a shell fell near him and a piece went into his chest and killed him instantly. He did not speak at all, just seemed to sit down in the trench and was dead. We went to him immediately, but it was no use. He did not move at all. I felt his death very much and am very sorry indeed for you. Poor Dick was always a good fellow and a good soldier too. Everyone in our company liked him because he was so cheerful and always had a smile on his face. I really think he is better off than I. He is now in God's care, while I am still going along in this terrible world and do not know when I will meet the same fate." Private Balcombe was buried near where he fell. Today his remains lie in Millencourt Communal Cemetery, beneath the words chosen by his mother. "Sleep on, dear Dick, for someday I hope we will meet again." Private Richard Balcombe was 26 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Richard Balcombe, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Catapult party, shoulder, arms.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Catapult party, present, arms.
lest we forget.
lest we forget.
Catapult party, outwards, turn. Catapult party, quick, march.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozier or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorials Development Project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.